Hello again, you wonderful Godder people. In this video, we're going to start decorating our level, and this time around, we're going to use static bodies. I want to put in some furniture that's going to make the level look a lot more interesting and entertaining. So, let's remind ourselves of how a static body works. So these walls are static bodies. So if I open up this scene, we can see that what we've got here is a mesh where we've generated a static body in a collision shape. Let's take a look at static body properties. We can access, let's just go back a bit to the materials so we see what we're doing. We can give it a physics material if we want, so we can make it rubbery, we could give it friction. We're not going to play with that right now. We could give it velocity, both linear and angular. I would recommend not doing that with a static body unless you really have to. Like occasionally you could slide a wall out the way, but for the most part we don't want to be doing that. If you do it, remember, all physics is calculated from the origin. So when I say rotate 90 degrees, it's going to rotate from here. In fact, let's just do that. There we go. It's going to rotate from here, not from the center. So be aware that the origin is always going to be important in a physics body. We also have access to our collision layers. Now this wall right now is marked as scenery, which is perfect. And for some reason I've got it masking only scenery. That's a lie. Let's have it masking everything. So with that done, let's make a brand new scene, and I'm going to make this a 3D scene, although I'm not actually going to use this scene. This is just a look at the assets we have. If we go under models and under furniture, you'll see we've got a whole bunch of meshes here, and a lot of it is stuff like benches. So here's our bench. Most of the stuff's going to be about twice the size we want because of the disparity in some of the assets, and the origin's going to be in the center. But here's a lovely little bench. Now, to me, a bench is not a static body. If I hit this or walk into it, I expect it to fly, but you might decide differently for your game. The ones that I think are going to be static are the kitchen things. So I have a kitchen cabinet, I have a corner cabinet, I have a cabinet with drawers, I have a coffee machine, that's not what I want. I have a fridge, and if we wanted to, we could also add the stove, we could add the kitchen sink, those feel good. And do you think the microwave, maybe the microwave is going to be a static body? I think it's probably a rigid body. I want to have everything that doesn't look like it's too heavy to lift be a rigid body. So I think the microwave could be pushed out the way. So these are going to be my static bodies. So we have our kitchen counters, we have the stove, we have the sink, and we have the fridge. And I'm going to use those to populate the level. I'm not going to save this scene. These are just examples, and I don't need the wall. But what I might do with, speaking of walls, is just extend this level a bit. So we have these walls here, the windows. Let's see, we got this window here, which is just window. We have window, what are you? Window side. Yeah, those look good. So I'm just going to select these by holding Shift and clicking on them. And then I'm going to do Control D to duplicate them. And I'm just going to slide them this way. And let's just take a quick look here. I should probably be using grid to do that, shouldn't I? So I'm going to undo that, switch on my grid snap. And that's looking a lot better. Okay, so why am I doing that? Because when I walk up to this wall, I want to see a little bit of the edge. So let's just do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to duplicate that with Control D and then slide it down this way. And you know what? We could probably do it one more time. Control D. Great. So now when I play the game, the room carries on this way. Now, currently, we can cross this line, but I'm about to put an invisible wall here that only affects the player. So let's do that. Let's put in, under walls, I need a brand new static body. So I'm going to make a brand new body here, static body. And that's going to be at 0, 0 currently. So I'm just going to move it to about here. There we go. That's going to be my boundary line. And I'm going to move it to the center of this wall, which isn't actually the center of the level. There we go. And let's call this player boundary. Now, typically, I would give this a mesh, but I'm not going to do that this time. Instead, I'm going to make this invisible. So let's just give it a collision shape. Collision shape. And the shape is going to be a box shape. And let's make it nice and narrow on the, what is that? That's the x-axis. And let's make it nice and wide on the, I want to say z-axis. Also, is that 90 degrees? It's kind of hard to tell from here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's also make this a bit higher. There we go. And final thing, player boundary on the collision shape. It is scenery, Let's take that off. I want food and things to be able to fly through it, so it doesn't exist on any layer, but it can interact with the player and only the player. So now when I press play, there is a line I cannot cross, but everything else can. Which means we now have this lovely little shooting gallery effect. Now I do want walls at the side there, so we can fix that real quick. Let's take these 3 walls. I'm just going to use blank walls for this. I say 3 walls, 5 walls, so I'm just holding shift and make sure I have them all selected. And then control D and poodle, about there, I think. We don't need those 2 walls. Let's just select you and delete, and select you and delete. And I'm going to take these walls here. Get a bit closer so I can see what I'm doing. Holding, oops, there we go. Holding shift to select them all, duplicate, and down. And one more time, duplicate and down. This will never get seen, but just to make it nice and clean. And let's duplicate the entire thing and move it this way. It's about there, isn't it? And just rotate it 180 degrees on this axis. There we go. That is looking pretty good. So one more time, let's take a quick look at what we have. Not bad. Right now, we can move the camera around here and still kind of see that way, so we could finish it off. But for right now, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so I have some extraneous window pieces I don't want. I have a place to put these pieces of furniture. So let's make a brand new scene. And this is going to be a custom node. It's going to be a static body. And let's just check our collisions. This is furniture, which isn't on here. So furniture is scene. This is scenery, which is what I want. And it can interact with scenery, players, robots, bystanders, and food. Now, I want to drag in a mesh. Now, I could just drag it over here. But if I drag it over here, let's just be very, very clear as to where it's going. So if I drag over, let's say, kitchen cabinet corner, you can see that the mesh is in the middle of nowhere. So let's just make sure that if I do that, I'm going to select the kitchen counter, go to transform, and put everything back to 0, 0, 0. And once again, look where the origin is. Now, on a static body, this doesn't matter too much, but it's going to make a huge difference on a rigid body. This needs a collision shape, so let's just click on that, and I want to make a new, this is probably a convex collision, just a nice simple collision, because we don't really care about that little detail there. This is a kitchen cabinet corner, so let's call it that. Kitchen cabinet corner. There we go. And let's save it somewhere. Save as. Save scene as. This isn't architecture, this is furniture. So brand new folder. Furniture with a capital F. And in it goes. Boom. Awesome. So now I'm going to repeat the same thing with the kitchen cabinet drawers, the kitchen cabinet itself, the fridge, the sink, and the stove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause my recording. I'm going to come back after a fancy clock wipe and just show you all those scenes I've made. And there we go. So if I minimize my models and go into the furniture scene, we should see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 static bodies. And I quite like them. One thing I do want to double check, let's make sure we're on the right collision layer. So you are scenery. I've got these set currently to interact with scenery. Now every other object should have the correct mask and layers, but just in case, let's say that I want to tick all of these. I want to keep scenery there because when rigid bodies hit it, I want it to fly off. So I'm just going to save that and just go through the others. So let's go to collision layer and just do bibbidi bobbidi bibbidi bobbidi. Great. And same thing. So just tick all of the relevant boxes. Kitchen cabinet. There we go. And kitchen cabinet corner. Not visual instance. What are you doing, Yan? You should be on the static body, which is already done. Great. So Control S, Control S, Control S, Control S, Control S. Everything is saved. It's all looking good. Great. Now, we already have an organizing node for furniture, so let's start thinking about bringing that in. One thing I should notice that I just forgot is that all of these are the wrong scale. So when I bring one in, let's instance in a kitchen cabinet. Cabinet. There we go. Let's just do a kitchen cabinet corner. There we go. Okay, so now if I take a look at this, this is actually the wrong size, and that's going to lead to a bit of a problem, isn't it? Because if I go here and start remaking them, we could, well, let me show you what's going to happen. If I do 0.5 on all three axes, the collision is the same shape. If I delete this collision shape and recreate it with convex collision, it's actually the original size, which is a bit of a pain. And I really don't want to have to go in here and change all the array points manually. So what I might be able to get away with, if I just double check in here, if I just undo all of that, there we go, is take the kitchen cabinet and change that to 0.05. To 0.5, not 0.05. In fact, that's probably a bit too small. Let's say 0.75. Let's save that and see how that looks in World. So here we have our kitchen cabinet corner. It needs to have its scale reset to the original. And that actually looks pretty good, doesn't it? So where should we put this? Let's rotate it by 90 degrees. And I'm going to put this over here. In fact, you know what? Yeah, it's going to be right over on this side. I'm going to put a little bit of kitchen right here. So let's bring in a couple of other pieces. Let's see, instance, I'm going to type in kitchen. And I'm going to put the sink over here. Let's put a sink here. That needs to be resized, isn't it? Because that's way too big. I mean, that's head height. So transform 0.75. And it fits in nicely. Okay. I think maybe a stove here. So let's instance in the stove. And slide that over. And there's going to be 0.75. And at this point, we probably want to take it off snap just to get it right in there. Oops. I'm going to quickly see how those three look already. Looking good. You know what I might do? I might make these windows fade out. Let's make the glass fade out. I'm going to leave the window frame where it is, but make the glass fade out. So let's go into our original window. Click on here. I'm going to go into the scene. And let's click on the mesh. Find our glass material, which is this one here. Single click on it, not double click. And we want to bring in the same fade we had before. I'm just going to double check what that was because I can't quite remember the settings I had. So on the material, it's this default material here, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one. We have a distance fade, pixel alpha 5 and 10. Nice and easy. So let's go click. Not proximity fade, it's a distant fade of pixel alpha with a min distance of 5 and a maximum of 10. So now when I save that and I get back into the game, I can see through the windows. I can see where the windows are, which still delineates the wall for me, which is very nice. But that's looking pretty good. Okay, so I have those nice sidewaysy kitchen bits, and now my task for you is to finish this off. So I'm going to pause my recording one more time. And then I'm going to finish off a little bit of this corner. I'm going to leave that area blank. I don't want the robots bumping into things. And I'm going to leave the center here blank. I'm creating a sort of cafeteria space here. So I'm going to fast forward a bit. And when I come back, I'll show you what I've made. And welcome back. I've made a little kitchen-y area. I'm just going to take myself off snap and just slide the whole thing back against the wall. Now, what I've had to do is just manually tweak the positioning because we're using 0.075, not 0.075, 0.75 scale, so the snapping is going to be off, but I don't mind if there's a little bit of gap there. That is looking pretty good. I could go further here. I want to make a little bit of space for more gameplay, but let's see how that feels. First thing we'll notice is the player needs to be starting in a different position. But I've actually got a couple of hiding spots here, haven't I? I kind of like that. They also allow me to shoot over the edge, which I might have to do something about later. What I don't want to do is make this too safe. We can fix that in the middle, which is why there's no hiding space in the middle. But that's feeling kind of fancy pants. I like that a lot. Let's change where the player starts. So I'm just going to minimize my two organizing nodes, so the walls and the furniture. Take the player and just scooch that way. So one more time. Now, obviously, right now, there are no lives or anything, but that's starting to feel pretty lovely. Like, I like that a lot. I can run all the way up here. I have quite a lot of space to go. I have some scary bits of food whizzing past me. I have some places that make the level look interesting. This looks a bit like a kitchen counter or a cafeteria counter. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think this is going to work. So, excellent work, and I'll see you in the next video.